Morning, student. Trust you are fine. I am fine here, and I believe you are still staying safe. Today, we'll be looking at respiratory system, and the subtopic is mechanism of respiratory system in lower and higher animals. Don't forget, we have started with respiratory system last week, and we learned about the different organisms and their respiratory structures. So today, we'll be looking at mechanism. How mechanism works. Now, the learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, students will describe the mechanism of respiratory system in the unicellular organisms, insects, fish, and also you will be able to describe the mechanism of respiratory system in man and state the process of inhalation and exhalation in man. Is going to be very interesting. So looking at the keywords, we have unicellular organisms, we have diffusion, we have inhalation, we have exhalation, we also have thoracic cavity, and we also have photosynthesis. Now to unicellular organisms. What are unicellular organisms? Yes. What are unicellular organisms? Thank you. Unicellular organisms are organisms that are one-celled. They are one-celled organism, that is, they have only one cell. One. Now to diffusion. I know this word is not new to us, but it's one of our key words in today's lesson. Diffusion simply means the process whereby there is movement of molecules or ions of a substance from region of high concentration to a region of lower concentration until they are evenly distributed. Until they are what? Evenly distributed. Now, what is inhalation? Inhalation simply means breathing in of air which contains oxygen, and exhalation simply means breathing out carbon dioxide and water vapor. And the thoracic cavity simply refers to our chest cavity. And now, what is photosynthesis? It is the process by which green plants manufacture their food, making use of carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight to give off oxygen. Now, what are the mechanisms of respiratory system? In unicellular organisms last week, I believe Mrs. Adeleye mentioned to you that we make use of the unicellular organism makes use of body surface. In insects, we have tracheal system. In fish, gills. Tadpole, gills. Toad, mouth, skin, and lungs. And mammals makes use of lungs. Unicellular organisms is the process of respiratory system in unicellular organisms is the process of gaseous exchange, which is made possible by simple diffusion. We've defined diffusion in the keywords. And how does this happen? The oxygen that is dissolved in water diffuses into the body of those unicellular organisms like amoeba, paramecium, and other aquatic organisms, while the carbon dioxide goes out of the body through the entire body surface. And how does this happen? We should know that the content of the oxygen in the water will be higher than the body of the unicellular organism. So what happens? The oxygen is able to diffuse into the body of the unicellular organism, and the carbon dioxide also goes out through the entire body surface also. And why does this happen? Why simple diffusion? Why? Okay, I'll tell you. Why simple diffusion is basically because the unicellular organism have a large surface area compared to the volume ratio. Large surface area to the volume ratio. Now, look at the picture of the paramecium, the amoeba. The paramecium has a slipper shape and the amoeba has a regular shape. I know some of you want to say, oh, I know. Okay, very good. Now, insects. Let's talk about the mechanism of respiratory system in insects. The insect uses the trachea system, like I've been told last week. So how does this happen? The insects have tiny openings in their abdomen, which we call the spiracle, through which oxygen diffuses into the body and carbon dioxide also diffuses out. And how does this happen? When the insect breathes, it compresses its body and the body becomes flattened. And when it becomes flattened, air is able to expel from the trachea through the spiracles. And when it relaxes its body, air enters into the trachea. So look at this slide. Look at the insect. I showed that is why I got you this particular picture that has the spiracle. Look here, the spiracle, the dot. They are the openings found at the abdomen. So let's move on. The fish, the organ for gaseous exchange is the gill, and we know where the gill is located. I believe, where is the gill located? It is located at the both sides of the head region. You know, when your mommy buys fish and wants to prepare it, that reddish stuff that she brings out from the head of the fish that you throw away is the gill. And the gill consists of the gill filament, it consists of the gill raker, and it also consists of the gill hack. Note this because it's an area of interest in external examination and also internal examination. You could be asked, what is the role of the gill filament, or what is the function of the gill filament in the fish? It is basically where gaseous exchange takes place. It is where the gaseous exchange takes place. And the gill raker, which helps to stop food particles from entering the gill chamber. The gill raker helps to stop the food particles from entering the gill chamber. And the gill arc, when we say something is an arc, what something is built on, right? Very good. So the gill arc on which the gill filaments are built on. So look here. This is the head, okay, of a fish. We can see right from the operculum where the gill is located in the head of the fish. So look at the picture now. You will see the gill filament, okay? I'm referring to this place, that is the gill filament, and the gill raker, I'm referring to this place, and the gill arc, that is where the gill filament is built on here. So we must be able to draw and label correctly. Very good. You must be able to draw and label correctly. Thank you. Now to tadpole. Tadpole is a young toad. A tadpole is a young toad. And what does it use for gaseous exchange? It uses gills for gaseous exchange. It uses what? Gills. Can I hear you again? Gills. It uses gills for gaseous exchange. So the gills is externally located and allows diffusion of gases between the tadpole and the respiratory medium. The external gills allows diffusion of gases between the tadpole and the respiratory medium. So now to the adult toad. The adult toad is matured, so it makes use of the mouth, the skin, and the lungs for gaseous exchange. So what happens? When the toad is on land, it's able to respire through the mouth on land. But when it is on both land and in water, it's able to respire through its skin. And the skin is moist, well vascularized. What do I mean by well vascularized? It has abundant blood capillaries. So oxygen present on land and in water can diffuse directly through the entire body, through which it is transported to the cells and tissues within the body. So the toad carries out gaseous exchange with its lungs when on land. Let's look at the slide here. This is what a tadpole looks like. That is the young toad. It's called the tadpole. So look at it here. This is the external gill here, right here. So it makes use of the external gill to exchange gases. So look here. For the adult toad, look at the adult toad. It makes use of the mouth, the lungs, and also the body surface. Very good. Now let's move on. So respiration in man. What does man use to respire? Yes, I know everybody will get that. Thank you, beautiful students, brilliant students, smart students. So respiration in man. Gaseous exchange is made possible through the lungs. Through the what? Through the lungs. The lungs. See what the lungs looks like. Okay. And where is the lungs located? In the thoracic cavity. Thank you. You got that right. And it has abundant, many blood capillaries. So we'll talk about that also. Now to the respiration in man. The respiratory system of man includes nasal passage, the pharynx, the larynx, the trachea, the bronchus, the bronchioles, and alveoli. So let's take it from the nasal passage to the pharynx, to the larynx, to the trachea, to the bronchus, to the bronchioles, and to the alveoli. So what is the alveoli? What is the alveoli? This is what alveoli is. This right here is the alveoli. This right here is the alveoli. This one right here is the alveoli. Thank you. So now the alveoli are richly supplied with blood capillaries, and it enables gaseous exchange to take place. So that is where gaseous exchange takes place, in the lungs. So what is inhalation? Breathing in of air or oxygen into the lungs. Can we do that? Breathe in, breathe out. So when we breathe in, it's inhalation. And I know what we felt in our thoracic cavity when we breathe in. Breathe in, breathe out. So inhalation is breathing in of air or oxygen into the lungs, and exhalation is the breathing out of air, which contains the carbon dioxide and water vapor into the atmosphere. And this is what the lungs of man looks like. Very good. So now to process of inhalation. I said you should breathe in now. What can you feel? Now I'm breathing in. I can feel that the thoracic cavity has increased in volume. I can see my diaphragm moved up. Don't forget what the diaphragm looks like. Look here. This is the diaphragm. Okay? So I believe you still know what diaphragm looks like. So the diaphragm moves, contracts, and becomes flattened. The ribs are moved upwards and outwards. And there's an increase in the volume and a decrease in the pressure of the thoracic cavity. When you try and breathe in now, can we feel the increase in volume? Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So there's an increase in the volume of the thoracic cavity, but don't forget there's a decrease in pressure. So air from outside is also drawn into the lungs through the nose, trachea, bronchus, bronchioles, leading to an increase in the size of the lungs. So when we breathe in, there's an increase in the size of the lungs. Beautiful. Now to the process of exhalation. The thoracic cavity first decreases in volume. Now, you know what exhalation means when you breathe out. Like, can we do that? Now I feel relaxed, right? Okay. So the thoracic cavity first decreases in volume. The diaphragm relaxes and assumes its dome shape. The ribs are moved downwards. Unlike when we breathe in initially, during inhalation, the ribs moved upward. But now that we are relaxed, that the diaphragm is relaxed, the ribs are moved downward. So there's a decrease in the volume of the thoracic cavity. So what happens when we breathe out? So the air containing waste products like carbon dioxide and water vapor from inside the alveoli or lungs are forced out through the bronchioles, the bronchi, the trachea, and finally to the outside. And what do I mean by the outside? The environment. Thank you. So now to the wrap up of today's lesson. I believe you understand how, or you are familiar with the mechanism of respiratory system in unicellular organisms, insects, and fish. We have been able to talk about the respiratory system in man also, the mechanism, how it works. And we have been able to state the process of inhalation, exhalation in man. So to our assignment, you will describe the mechanism of respiration in plants. You will describe the mechanism of respiration in plants. So what happens, how does plants respire? I believe we know plants respire, right? So and I believe you know that in the equation of photosynthesis, the reverse is respiration. In photosynthesis, there is a build-up, okay? That's what we call anabolism. And in respiration, there is a breaking down, which is catabolism. So when you want to write down the equation of respiration, you know what happens? There's a breaking down of the glucose, right? Very good. So describe the mechanism of respiration in plants. So I would like to hear your response in the comment section. I would also like to let us talk about the differences between respiration and photosynthesis. Let's talk about it. The process is different. So let's talk about it. One is, I've even mentioned one. I would like to hear your comments in the comment section. I actually made this so that you can see my face. I know you have missed me and I've missed you also. So we'll meet in the comment section. Thank you so much. Enjoy the comment section.